So here I am in wonderful West Dean, and next to me is David Leisner, who gave a great concert the other night, and I'd just like to talk to him about life and music and everything else. So David, how long is it since you've been here?
Since I've been in West Dean,
Yeah.
It's been 12 years.
So it's a very, very long time.
Yeah, too long. Bring it back sooner.
Yeah. Well, I remember the last time you came, you came and stayed with me, and we talked about focal dystonia, and you're one of the famous people who pioneered, actually, I would say, your self-recovery.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's going great. I mean, I fixed my hand by 1996.
Right.
So ever since then, it's been perfect.
Yeah, so I noticed in the concert, I mean, you played everything really beautifully, and people actually commented on the way you were poised and the way you used your hands. And I noticed in your teaching as well, you very much pay attention to the way the joints work and everything.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I remember when we first met, you told me a little bit about your journey with focal dystonia and how you actually used to approach the guitar and your hand turned into a claw, you called it.
Yes. Well, you know, focal dystonia is a condition where the fingers curl into the palm without control.
Yeah.
And no pain, of course. That's the distinguishing factor. And so, you know, when I would go to pluck a chord, my ring finger and pinky would sort of pull into the palm, and I could pull them out again, but then they'd immediately pull in every time I'd intend or actually pluck a string.
And you had a particular way of dealing with this, I remember.
In the end,
yes.
In the end. I mean, you know, I went through years and years of going around the country in the U.S. to try and get it fixed, and nobody could help me. And finally, I developed my own ideas, which had to do with engaging the large muscles, essentially in the armpit.
Yes.
The intersection of the latissimus dorsi muscles, the lats,
right. They
call them weightlifting, and the teres minor muscles, those crescent-shaped muscles in the back there. At least that's as far as I can figure out what these muscles are. So I figured out that these muscles are where the stroke of the fingers begins.
Correct.
And so once you understand that, then you have to figure out, okay, how can I access those muscles? How do I get there? And it took me quite a while to figure out, and I, at the beginning, had no idea what I was doing, had no idea if it was going anywhere, and in the end, yes, it turned out to cure me.
It really worked very well.
Thank you, it's very simple, really, in concept. It's simple. There's a lot of nuance to the engagement of the large muscles, and each person that comes to work with me on it, there's a whole different set of nuances involved with every person. Once you understand the basic principle, which is really quite simple, and then you just have to figure out how to apply it and how then to, once you understand how to do it at a very slow tempo, how to get it up to faster tempos. So.
I think what we're talking about here is the common error that people think that the muscles of the fingers are actually in the hand.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
And that they're joined by tendons to the bigger muscles here.
These are in fact the small muscles in your forearm. They're small muscles. Most people think these are bigger than they are. These are small muscles. They get bigger here, and then they get bigger as you go down your back and in your armpit. Those are big muscles. And you know, people think, well, you play the guitar with your fingers. No, you play the guitar with your back and your shoulders and your neck.
Yes.
Right? It's all because that's where the big muscles begin.
I think it's very important for most musicians to understand that, because we use our hands a lot, and that's where the concentration is.
Yes.
The actual control point for all this is in the bigger muscles
up
at
here,
the back and in the shoulders.
Guitarists and musicians in general are myopic. They look at the hand, they think, well, I have a problem in my hand. Where is it? You know? And you have to take a bird's eye view. No, it's not just in the hand, it's this whole mechanism here. Because the arm, in fact, if you know anything about Alexander technique, the arm begins here at what they call the sternoclavicular joint, where your sternum meets your clavicle, your collarbone. That's where the arm begins. It doesn't begin at the shoulder, where everybody thinks. So once you get that, well then, my God, there's a whole world here that has to open up. You have to understand how does it all function.
Yes, and you've helped so many people do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to go on to your other activities in the last 12 years. It's quite a long time to cover. But yeah, you've been recording a lot again,
yes,
I noticed, which I'm very happy to hear. I bought all your CDs. Tell me a little bit about the latest one, because I think that's particularly interesting and quite close to your heart.
It truly is, Gerald. It centers around two pieces that I commissioned or had commissioned for me by major American composers. One is David Leisner, and the other is Osvaldo Golijov. Osvaldo is Argentine-born, but has lived in the U.S. for a long time now. Both of these amazing composers are among the great composers living, and I'm very fortunate to have known Osvaldo early on, before he got to be the big name guy that he is. And there was a presenter in Santa Fe who was a very wonderful supporter of me and my composition, and she was interested in Golijov. She knew about him, and back in 1998, I asked her whether she might commission him for a flute and guitar piece, since she was going to present Eugenia Zuckerman, the flutist, and me on her series in Santa Fe. So she said yes, Osvaldo said yes. Out came Fishtail for flute and guitar, a very lovely piece, as he calls it, a watercolor for flute and guitar. Then the even larger undertaking was the piece called Facts of Life by David Leisner. Leisner is truly one of the great American composers. I think he is still underrated immensely. I think he's underrated for a reason, because his music is difficult to understand. It's a lot about obsession, and there's a lot of kind of repetition and sort of hard-driving pounding in of ideas, which may overstay its welcome for some people, but it's actually the point of his music. And if you familiarize yourself with the big pieces that he wrote in the 70s and 80s, all based on Alice in Wonderland, they're almost all, I think, evening-length pieces for full Strauss-sized orchestra, and usually one or two or more vocal soloists, and sometimes odd instruments thrown in. The greatest one, I think, is one of the later ones, Final Alice, hour-long piece or more. Incredible music. And this sort of extravagant, over-the-top kind of music has never been written. The guitar has never had anything like that written for it. And I have this immense respect for David. He was an orchestration teacher of mine. So I approached him back in 2009, asked him for a guitar piece, and he said yes, much to my thrill.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And then he said, I asked him, well, how about 10 to 12 minutes? And he said, well, maybe we'll do it a little longer. And it ended up being 35 minutes. He said, I saw him the other day, he said, that was quite a bargain, wasn't it?
How many months did that take out of your own professional life?
Well, it took a lot, I have to say. I mean, you have to know that Leisner is a composer who revises endlessly. Endlessly. I mean, so much that it drives you absolutely stark-raving mad. Mad. So here's the picture. Basically, we worked for 3 months, side by side. Every week we got together for at least twice a week, either on the phone or in person. He would show me what he'd written, and I played it for him, and then we, play with it. I would make technical bits of, suggestions and advice. I would also make musical, advice, compositional advice, a little naughty of me, but, you know, and he thought so too at first, but he has great respect for me. So there was this lovely rapport. He actually said it was one of the great collaborations of his life, which made me thrilled. It certainly was for me an amazing time of all this incredible, nuanced, intimate understanding of the writing of a piece from a man who has really a great genius. And the writing of a piece, to watch the writing of a piece in his mind, to watch it unfold, is totally fascinating. There's an organic growth that happens, and he has this gift of organic composition, which very, very few living composers have. Mm-hmm. It's much more common in the 19th century. Mm-hmm. And so to watch this unfold was amazing. But then the problematic part was that after we did those 3 months, then he wanted to revise it. And here I am, I'm trying to memorize the damn thing. He gave me the so-called final score of the music in January of 2010. I had to premiere it in April, and the score was so messy and on so many pages, I couldn't use the score in concert, so I had to memorize it. This is 35 minutes of counterpoint, okay? 35 minutes of counterpoint, I had to memorize it, so I'm memorizing it. And then as I'm memorizing it, he's changing his mind. He's revising there and everywhere. And so of course I go with it, but at some point I just said, David, you got to stop. Can't do it anymore, I'm overloaded. You know. He reluctantly said yes. And then after the premiere, he went back and he revised it some more.
So what's the piece called?
It's called Facts of Life.
Facts of Life.
It's in 4 movements.
Yes.
The shortest movement is 6 minutes long. The longest movement is 12 minutes long. That longest movement is called Flamenco Forever. Mm-hmm. That's the movement that's the most misunderstood because you know, people, especially people, have a special love for flamenco and consider it a deep art form, which of course it is. They may be shocked, maybe even offended by the piece, because the piece really just takes what is basically a cliche of flamenco writing, and all he does is he uses it as material, as he does everything. For David, the musical material doesn't mean anything. It's what you do with it.
Sure.
That's it.
I get it.
Yes, I know you do. I know you do. And so, you know, this is what he does. It's this amazing 12-minute movement goes through these sort of flamenco strums and things and gestures, and it then turns them into this David Del Tredici style, this obsessive, repetitive thing that hits you over a hammer, with a hammer over and over and over again, and then suddenly it erupts into this imaginative fugue that just comes out of nowhere, and this huge fugue in the middle of the movement. It's just amazing. And then he goes on and ends with me screaming. As if I'm saying, help! I need to get out of here.
So, the piece you played in the concert was from Facts of Life, wasn't it?
Yes, that was the slow movement.
Slow, beautiful movement.
It's just a gorgeous. I mean, that's the one movement that will, I'm quite sure, be an instant classic. It's so beautiful. It's about the breakup of a relationship, which had actually been somewhat in the past for him. But he was thinking about it one morning as he began to write another movement. And unlike the other movements, which took him many days and in the end months to write, this one fell on his lap in an afternoon. Yeah. It just came out virtually in one piece.
Well, I thought you played it very movingly, actually, at the concert. The other piece, which was interesting, was your own piece in the concert. What was that called?
Called Labyrinths.
Labyrinths.
Right. And it's very much about paying attention, particularly in a world of distraction and too much speed. So it's so I guess, for want of a better term, it's in a somewhat minimalist style, different in process than the other minimalists who I know, but a similar approach. It's actually closer in feeling, I think, to minimalist art,
Yes.
which I have looked a lot at and have identified with tremendously. So there's lots of patterns of repetitions that get sort of run through, and there's then subtly changing repetitions and notes. It's as if you're looking at something, a vase or some beautiful vase, and you turn it around slowly, and you keep seeing something different as you turn it around.
That came across very much, and there's also this feeling of nature in a few of the movements.
Yes, very much so.
Do you feel that you're going back to this sort of composition, or are you doing something completely different now?
Well, this has been the style that's occupied me for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
It's quite dramatically different from my earlier pieces. People seem to know me best for Dances in the Madhouse, written 33 years ago, and my God, I've written so much music and so much better music since then. But the music from then until, say, the early 2000s was in a more or less similar style. Then I sort of took a left turn into this more minimalist approach, and now sometimes I'm sticking with that, and sometimes I'm sort of combining the two, where the two are kind of finding their meeting ground somehow. I'm not sure how. There's been a couple of times when people have purposefully requested me not, they commission a piece and they want me to write not in the minimalist style, and then I say, well, yeah, but that's me right now, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I find there is a way of kind of finding the common ground. So I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Are you doing a lot of writing at the moment?
Yes, quite a bit. Well, because of my performance career and teaching and so on, it's hard to compose while I'm doing that other stuff. Sure. It's just the nature of my personality. So I have to really, when I compose, I have to focus completely on composing, which means that I set aside certain weeks every year as sacred weeks. And I will not do anything but work on, think about, dream, eat, drink, composing. So usually that's 1 or 2 periods in a year. This year I'll have 2. I just finished a set of songs for soprano and guitar to Mark Twain texts. Interesting. I think I may be one of the only people ever to have set Mark Twain to music. It's not poetry, it's prose, which presents certain challenges. This is from the Diary of Adam and Eve, and in particular Eve's diary, since it's a soprano. The texts are very funny, very charming, very touching. They're really meaty, beautiful texts. So I had great fun completing that piece. The next piece will be an orchestra piece that will actually be based on a piece for cello and guitar, which I had written a few years ago for cellist Sue Bailey. And one of the movements, the middle movement, is a very, very spare movement in harmonics for both instruments. And I'm going to expand that into an orchestral overture. I love the idea of an overture being, instead of a slam bang kind of crashy fanfare, rather be it very quiet and drawing people in. So I can't wait to write this piece.
When's that going to be performed?
Probably the 16-17 season.
Which and where?
In Arkansas.
Oh,
all
Arkansas,
places. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's a commission from the orchestra there, or
a sort of commission.
Yeah. Okay. No.
It's what it is a friend of mine who's the conductor of that orchestra and some other places around the country. He had heard this piece and he said, I think that might be an orchestra piece in there. And I said, oh, you're right. What a great idea. And he said, well, you write it? He said, we'll play it.
Oh,
and fantastic. I said, yeah, well, I like that idea, but can we get a commission? And the commission wasn't able to be worked out, so I found some interest from some other conductors of bigger orchestras. So they're actually interested. So I think the piece will have a life, at least a beginning life. And if it's any good, it'll have more of a life. We'll see.
Oh, that's very exciting. So you also do a lot of teaching. And so we're going back to the beginning of our interview now. Where do you actually spend most of your time teaching?
Well, I teach at the Manhattan School of Music in New York.
Right.
I have a limited studio. I purposefully cut it off at 8 students. Sometimes I only have 7 or even 6. Usually 5 or 6 of those are private students, and 2 hours are chamber music hours. And I love teaching, but I would go completely nuts if I had to teach more than that.
Yes.
So I'm a very intense teacher, and I give everything to my students, and when the week is done, after 7 or 8 hours of teaching, I'm done, I'm cooked. So there's that limit. I have very gifted and wonderful students at the Manhattan School, and I'm sure it will continue.
Yes, I've seen you teach here, and it's been very inspiring for everybody. Actually, they've all said, how good the sessions have been with you.
Thank you.
So it's lovely to see you again, David, and thank you for spending time together to talk. I always enjoy talking with you. There's always some new element in your life.
Yes, indeed. Oh, I should add one more new element coming up. Is I've got a CD coming out with that cellist, Zul Bailey.
Oh, right.
It was scheduled to be out in October of this year, 2015. I suspect because the editing is taking a little longer, it'll be on the beginning of next year, 2016. A really gorgeous album. It's going to be so beautiful.
Any idea what the repertoire is?
Well, yeah.
Are you allowed to tell us?
Yes, I am. Absolutely. The big piece on the program is the Schubert Arpeggione Sonata.
Great.
In my arrangement, which is about to be published by Presser Company.
Yeah.
I worked very, very hard on it. I really honed it down. I really think we play the hell out of that piece.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
It's a great piece.
It's a great piece, and so I'm so fortunate to play it on the guitar.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And there's a piece of mine called Twilight Streams. About a 15 or 16 minute piece. There's the Phi SM Popular Songs in my arrangement, which will also get published eventually. Then there are the Villalobos Bachianas, Fuseleras, 5 aria, the Gluck, Dance of the Blessed Spirits, Paganini variations on Mosè.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, very virtuoso for the
cello.
Cello. Incredible. He plays the hell out of it. And what am I missing? I'm missing one thing, I think. Oh, the Swan, Le Cygne by Saint-Saëns. Yeah. Beautiful. I think that's about it. It's a nice, a mix of kind of pot boilers and deep music and substantial stuff. I think it's going to be a really great album.
Great. Well, good luck with everything, all your projects, and thanks again.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.